And here to talk a little politics, the man who'll be the chairman of the Democratic National Convention this summer, the mayor of Los Angeles, Antonio Villaraigosa, and the former Republican governor of Mississippi, who is also the former chairman of the Republican Party, Haley Barbour. Gentlemen, thanks to both of you for coming. Let me start with you, Governor Barbour. Governor Romney seems pretty confident. When he sat out with Diane Sawyer last week and she asked him what message he had for the president, he said, start packing. And then the other night, after he won some more primaries, he said, a better America begins tonight. Is it time to start measuring curtains in the Oval Office yet?
No, but I think
we got a lot of campaign ahead of us.
Of course we do. But I think a lot of people in the news media and a lot of others were surprised that after a not very flattering nomination contest for Republicans, the first Gallup poll, Romney's ahead. In your poll, it's a dead heat. In other polls, it's a dead heat. I think a lot of people expected that Romney would be like Reagan was in 1980, when, as you know, Reagan was behind 14 points at this point. And I didn't expect Romney to be behind that far. But the fact that it's a dead heat right now after the Republican nomination contest, which wasn't as helpful as we might have liked it to be.
Mr. Mayor, do you think it's that close?
I think the country's evenly divided. I think it's going to be a very close election. But if you look at Governor Romney's record, the only people that will be packing, looking back, were the companies that he bought, put in debt, and then had employees go packing, and he made a profit. If that's what he's going to do with the economy, then we're all going to be packing. I think it's going to be a very close election. It's going to be tough. The country's evenly divided, but I think ultimately that President Obama will win. And he'll win because he's got a record of defending and fighting for the middle class, because he's set on addressing the deficit, but doing it in a way that's responsible. $2.50 of cuts for every dollar of revenue.
So how about you, Governor? You think it's going to be close?
Not if President Obama tries to run on his record. I would love to think that that's what they're going to do, is run on his record, because the results of his policies have been terrible. The economy grew 2.2% the last quarter, according to his administration. I mean, after the last deep recession, the economy was going 5, 6, 7%. We were adding jobs by the hundreds of thousands. This has been the most peaked recovery, and it's because of his policies. Telling employers he wants to hit them with the largest tax increase in American history. How does that make employers more likely to hire more people, which should be our first goal? Obamacare drives up the cost of health care, drives up the deficit. So, yeah, I hope that this is a referendum on the president's record, because if it is, that's the best it can be for Republicans.
Well, this economy.
Of course, if Governor Romney runs on his record, he ran on jobs. They were 47th out of 50 when he left. He ran on reducing the debt. Per capita, Massachusetts were #1 in the loaded debt that they had. He ran on reducing government, and he left his successor $1 billion in debt. So we'll see what happens if Mr. Romney runs on his record.
Let me just ask you this, Mr. Mayor, though. There are some Democrats who are disappointed, to say the least, with the president on immigration policy, for one thing, on gay rights, on any number of things. Immigration, for example, is going to be a big issue, it seems to me. What about that?
I think it is going to be an issue. I agree with Governor Barbour that the biggest issue is going to be the economy, but it is going to be a big issue. And if you look at the DREAM Act as an example, if we were to give these kids a pathway to citizenship, if they went to college or the military, it would add $1.5 trillion to the U.S. economy. I believe that there should be a pathway for citizenship. The president has said from the beginning that he supports a pathway to citizenship. Mr. Romney, on the other hand, has called for the self-deportation of 11 million people. He said the DREAM Act would be a handout, and his campaign with Chris Kobach, who authored the Arizona and the Alabama laws. So I think on the issue of immigration that the president is more in tune with the mainstream of America.
What about that, Governor Barbour? Because Hispanics make up 11% of the voting population, and it seemed to me during the primaries, the Republicans just almost tried to run Hispanics off at some point.
Well, there's no question the Hispanic vote's a very important vote, and it's a very important vote in some states, but it's a very important vote. Nationally, Republicans didn't do well in 08, but look, unemployment among Hispanics is higher than among others in the United States, particularly among young Latinos. They are being hurt worse by the policies of this administration. And don't think that that doesn't enter heavily into their and their families' thinking. So many not employed at all. Their hopes were built up. And when you talk about the DREAM Act, hey, I've been around here a long time. If you're serious about legislation, you don't wait to bring it up in a lame duck session, which is what they did with the DREAM Act. They never brought it up the first 2 years that they had 60 Democrats in the Senate, huge majority in the House. They don't bring it up until after the 2010 election. I mean, how serious is that? How serious is the president about the budget when his own tax commission that he appointed comes out with a report? He's never mentioned it.
Let me just get back to the DREAM Act, and let's just talk about that, because Marco Rubio has now kind of come up with his version of the DREAM Act. Under the president's version, as I understand it, people who serve in the military, who go to college, who came into this country, whose parents brought them into this country, then they can, there's a path to citizenship. I guess Marco Rubio says his version is they would get a work permit and then they could apply for citizenship. Could you support the DREAM Act that the president, as he outlines it, Governor Barbour, as a Republican? I
have to tell you, Bob, I'm not familiar with every detail, but some of the concepts are clearly attractive. The fact that people come and serve in our military certainly ought to give them some status in the United States, whether it's that they have the right to stay and to work as long as they pay taxes, as long as they don't break the law. Now, maybe there should be a different path to citizenship.
Are you saying, though, that Governor Romney is going to have to move a little on this issue?
Well, I'm not saying anything for Governor Romney. What I am saying is Hispanic votes are in play here because of the economy and because of other policies of this administration have been bad for Hispanics as well as everybody else, and we better go try to get those votes.
I would support the president's version of the DREAM Act. I think that Senator Rubio's version of the DREAM Act would create a second-class status for folks, and I understand that Speaker Boehner said that he doesn't expect that that issue will be addressed in this Congress, but we should engage in a conversation and in a debate.
Do you think, Mr. Mayor, that if Mitt Romney decided to put Senator Rubio from Florida on the ticket, that would make a difference?
I haven't seen, and Governor Barbour knows a lot more about these elections than I do, but I've rarely seen a vice presidential candidate do much to
help
elect.
with Jack Kennedy.
Well,
it
might like I said, rarely. It might help you with a state. I don't expect that it's going to win you an election or win you an entire demographic. This is going to have to be fought out on the issues, and I think the president's better on the issues, but that remains to be seen.
What do you think, Governor?
Well, again, I hope this campaign is a campaign about policy and the results of the president's policies. Can a vice presidential candidate just change the whole deck? No, I don't think so. You're right. One of the theories of picking a running mate is like Kennedy and Johnson. Pick a running mate that'll give you a big state. You know, could Romney find somebody, give him Pennsylvania, give him Ohio, give him Michigan? Does he need somebody to give him Florida? Would he win it anyway? But the idea that you're going to reshuffle the deck would be very unusual in American history.
See, we agree, Democrat and Republican.
It may be the beginning of a new era here. Gentlemen, thank you so much.